everyone, today I'm going to film a tutorial using two new liquid eyeshadows. These ones are by Diego Della Palma. They're a metallic finish and I just knew I wanted to use them. I'm going to just zoom in so you guys can see them. Beautiful colours, really easy, simple to use, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to use these and base my makeup around them. So I'm going to start off by applying some lip balm. This one is the Mercier Hydrating Lip Balm. I showed you it in my last tutorial along with their other essential skincare products. This is lovely. I've literally not put it down since I received it. It's so silky on the lips. On the high points of my face, I'm going to apply the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is really beautiful. You can wear it alone, you can wear it under makeup, on top of makeup as a highlighter. It has a massive doe foot applicator. It makes the application of the product really easy to use. So I'm popping it on to the high points of the face. And the purpose of me doing this is so that it shows up underneath the makeup. It gives you that glow from within underneath your foundation. Just going to buff that in with a small brush. I'm using a small brush so that I'm more precise with the blending rather than buffing it all out and ending up all over my cheek. I just want to keep it again to the high points of the face. So buff it in with your brush and then just use your fingers over the top to soften the seams. I like to also take it on top of the brow bone. This is just an area that looks really nice when your makeup's kind of settled in for the day, and say like you're on holiday and it's the evening. Sometimes your T-zone gets a little bit oily and it looks beautiful when this catches the sun. So we're just putting that in place underneath the foundation. So I'm using what's left on the bristles to take that over the brow bone and then just above. Now I'm going to add contour underneath my foundation, which is a technique that I've done for many years, but I've kind of just picked it up again, so I'm using it a lot in recent tutorials. And the products I'm going to use this week is the Hollywood Contour Wand by Charlotte Tilbury. And as you can see, it's got a little squeezy tube, which is great because you can get all the product out, but it's got a sponge applicator on the top, so you can just apply it directly from the wand. So I'm just popping this into the hollows of the cheeks. You only need a very tiny amount. As you can see, it's really intense. And I'm going to buff each side before I apply the next lot because it does kind of sit on the skin and leaves a bit of a mark if you don't blend it out pretty much straight away. So I'm using a stipple motion in the hollows of the cheeks and bringing that down. Then I'm going to use what's on the bristles to pop that into the temple area because as you can see, it makes cheekbones look more prominent. So just pop that in there and then just keep working your brush over the top. This doesn't need to be immaculately blended because we're going in with our foundation over the top, which is going to soften everything. And you want to leave it a little bit more intense because the idea is that it's going to show through the foundation but obviously look a lot softer. But if you blend it out too much, then kind of doing it underneath your foundation becomes pointless. Take a little bit around your hairline. I'm going to dab the initial bit into the bristles and then just press them on this side as well. And then spread that out around the rest of the hairline. Now remember to pull your tiny baby hairs back and buff this backwards. So it goes into the hairline, so there's kind of no obvious areas of where the product starts and your skin that isn't the same colour, if that makes sense. Now the idea, as I've explained in many tutorials, is that you are kind of creating a sun-kissed appearance. So anywhere the sun would naturally touch the skin and give it a little bit of colour, we're putting that in with a contour shade. So now we're looking a little bit crazy. We're going to go a step further and dip our brush, like a small blending brush, into a very small amount of that contour shade. You don't want to use the applicator because it is too wide. So if you put that on the sides of the nose, it's just going to completely cover it and look quite messy. So again, we're using a brush so we can be a little bit more precise. So we don't want to go crazy because we can always add a little bit of contour on top of our foundation. But applying everything underneath allows you to be more intentional with what you're doing because everything's going to soften slightly. Whereas if you go like this on top of your foundation, then you've got a lot more work to blend it in. So dust all the excess product off onto a tissue and then softly buff over the top until it looks a lot softer. And again, you don't have to worry too much about any lines because once you start working your foundation over the top, it's going to look a lot softer. If you want, you can take a small amount underneath your jaw. I don't like to go too crazy with this because although it looks fine on camera, when you go out and about, it just looks like you've got a dirty neck. The idea is that it looks like a shadow rather than you've put product there, if that makes sense. I know it's pretty obvious, but to some people, I don't think it is. Then we're going in with a concealer. This one is the Revlon Conceal and Define. Again, it comes with a big doe foot applicator, much like the Hollywood Flawless filter. And although we've got a highlighter on the high points of the face, we want to lift this area up but conceal it at the same time. So I'm putting a very small amount underneath the eyes, a little bit on the forehead, down the nose and the chin. Then I'm taking a fluffy blending brush and stippling over that to blend it into the skin. I've done this technique many times with full coverage, expensive products, so I thought I would do a drugstore version. Even though the contour's Charlotte Tilbury, I thought I'd use a drugstore concealer just to show you that it doesn't all have to be really expensive makeup, it's the technique. I'm also pressing that over the eyelids because this is going to neutralise the skin and work as a base for our eyeshadow. The foundation I'm going to use today is the Rimmel Wake Me Up foundation. I've used a lot of high-end foundations recently, so I thought I would use something that's a little bit more affordable. So on my palette, I'm just tapping the foundation onto the brush and then tapping all the excess product off, and then we're going to stipple that on top of the skin. I'm mainly applying this in the areas first that we didn't apply any product to the skin. So we've got this area around here, and then using what's left on the bristles, we're going to tap over our contour area. You'll see now that the contour will still be visible, but it will be so much softer. If you're not new to my channel, you'll have seen this technique a lot recently. Again, it's something I used to do years ago, and I've just started picking it up again. So if we compare sides, we've got this side which we've not blended in yet, and this side which is so much softer. And the idea of this method is to prevent you from putting too much layers onto the skin. If you put foundation all over first and then you put a cream product over the top of that and then a highlighter, you've got so many layers. Whereas if you lay down the most intense shade first and then only lay down the foundation where you've not got any product and then just use what's left on the bristles to soften the rest, then you've not got as much on your face, if that makes sense. I'm just going to softly buff that over the nose to soften the contour, and also add it onto the areas that we've not applied any product yet, like on the sides of the nostrils. Use what's left on your bristles to pack that into any of the super dark areas to lighten them slightly. So as you can see, the skin looks beautifully contoured, but it's all very soft. So if I zoom in, you can see the skin doesn't look cakey, it looks nice and natural, it's glowy from having the highlighter underneath the foundation, the contour's nice and soft, it looks like skin. I'm just including a little clip of how I fill in my brows because so many people ask me. I am linking on screen the full in-depth tutorial on how I do my brows. I use my MAC Shape and Shade brow tint because it has a tiny little tip on it that you can use to mimic brow hairs all the way throughout your brow. You can make it lighter at the front, and then you can just go in and set the hairs in place with a clear eyebrow gel. My favourite is the one by Benefit. This is the 24-hour brow setter. For this particular eye look, I'm starting off by applying a bronzer in the eye socket. This one is the Bondi Bay Cream Bronzer by NUDESTIX. And I'm using a synthetic brush, which is a small domed one, in the socket just to work that backwards and forwards and warm it up. You could use a matte brown eyeshadow, you can use a matte bronzer, it's completely up to you. I'm just using this one because it's on my desk and I've not used it before in a tutorial, at least not on the eyes. The nice thing about working with a cream is that if you go in with any powder eyeshadows after this, they've got something to stick to. You can also use your finger to blend out any of the seams. Next I'm taking this Diego de la Palma Taupe Metallic Eyeshadow. This is a liquid, it's water resistant, and as you can see it goes on super lightweight and very thin, so you can build up the layers, but even in a very thin layer it's super reflective. What's great about this is that you've got a little bit of working time with it. It's quite liquidy. I didn't think that it was going to dry down, but it does, and it literally does not move. They've created this so that it is a thin layer that you can apply so that you can build it up if you want more of an intense colour, but the idea is that you're not wearing a ton of makeup but you still get that colour payoff. This is really beautiful, and as you can see it just gives you an almost glossy feel to the skin, but when you touch it, it doesn't transfer. So I've gone in with my brush, buffed it out up towards the socket line, and as you can see we've got a beautiful kind of taupey metallic glossy feel. The next colour I'm going in with is Rose Beige. This is definitely like a warm gold. Once it's tapped over the taupe, it looks a little bit cooler. I'm using the applicator to apply a very small amount to the centre of the eyelid, and I'm using different fingers in turn to tap that in so that I'm picking up some of that remaining product and just leaving a thin layer over the top. These are two of my favourite new products to be released, and I'm talking about from any brand because I really love how thin and lightweight they are. On a small brush, I'm taking some of the rose beige on the inner corners of the eyes, and this really is so reflective and so beautiful. A little goes such a long way, and you don't need the applicator to apply it because you really can just pop it on with your fingers, or if you want to be more precise like I am, you can use a brush. It looks gorgeous if you pull it back underneath the eyelashes at the very front along the tear duct area, and then use what's left on the bristles to tap it up onto the top of the eyeshadow on the inner corner. Using a clean small brush, I'm tapping the taupe colour on the outer third of the mobile lid. Once I've laid down the initial colour, I then use what's left on the bristles to tap it forward to meet the gold colour on the middle, so we have a seamless blend between the two shades. I'm also putting a very small amount on the inner third of the eye too. Next, I'm taking a small amount underneath my lower eyelashes. Once I've placed a very light amount down, I'm using my finger to soften it. That way we get a beautiful smoky appearance, and because it's not too thick and not too dark, it doesn't overwhelm the eyes. Use what's left on the bristles to pour the colour out to meet the outer corner of the top lid, and that way everything will be seamless and it will frame the eyes. Going back to the rose beige, I'm taking a very small amount on the centre of the lower eyelid and then patting it in with my finger. This mimics the top lid and adds light to the very centre. The next step's optional. You don't have to apply an eyeliner along the waterline. I'm going to take this 24-hour tattoo eyeliner by Maybelline in the shade Bold Brown. You could of course apply a cream colour kohl pencil along here to brighten the eyes and make them look bigger. I'm very much a fan of smoky looks, especially with this one because the eyeshadow is not too intense, it's not too dark, so you can really get away with a smoky kohl along the waterline. I'm also taking a small amount on the outer third of the top lid and then making it even smaller as we get along the lash line towards the very inner corner of the eye. A little tip when doing this on yourself is to place your index finger on your temple to keep your skin nice and taut. This will help your pencil to glide along the skin nice and easy without creating loads of jaggedy lines, but it doesn't matter too much because we're going to go in with a small brush and just soften the very top of it so it's still visible but it's a lot softer and more diffused. Next, I'm going to take my Kevyn Aucoin eyelash curlers and I'm going to very gently pinch that at the root. And then I'm also going to walk it along the length of my eyelashes and just give it a little pump to curl the entire length of the lash. Then I'm going in with the Lash Brag Mascara by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and then I'm going in with the 817 eyelashes by Ardell. Moving on to blush, I'm going to take the NUDESTIX Nudies in the Nude, which is an all over face colour, which means you can use it on your eyes, lips, cheeks. I'm going to use it as blush. What's great about these is that you get a little brush on the opposite side, so if you're on the go you can just pop it on with a brush, you can blend it in with your fingers. I like to use a Real Techniques 401 brush. It's slightly angled, it's really soft and it's synthetic, which works best with cream based products. The reason I've chosen in the nude is because we've got quite a neutral colour on the eyes, so I don't want anything that's too pink, too coral, just something more neutral. So I'm going to pop this just very softly on the apples of the cheeks. So if you smile, you can see where the apples of your cheeks are. And then just pop the colour backwards with what's left on the bristles. I find it comes out best if you use a stipple motion. But these really do just melt into the skin. So if you want to just use your hands, you absolutely can. If you've never tried NUDESTIX, you really must. I can't stop using them. I use them in my professional kit, my personal kit. I use them in so many tutorials. They're just brilliant for on the go. So I do have a discount code if you want to use it. It's completely up to you. I will pop it on screen and down below in the description bar for you. For lips, I'm going to use this one by MAC, which is called Honey Love. And as you can see, it's a beautiful kind of browny nude shade, and I think it would just go well with the cheeks and the kind of bronze feel that we've got to the skin. It's a comfortable matte finish. I'm going to finish off the look using this illuminator by Sensai, and this is called the Sensai Supreme Illuminator. It has a beautiful goldy finish to it, so just dipping my finger into the illuminator. You can just see it's really quite subtle, and I'm going to pop this just on the high points of the cheekbone. You could go back in with your Hollywood Flawless filter, but I'm only keeping it to this kind of little section here and the brow bone. As you can see, when it just catches the light, it really does pop. It's beautiful. I do prefer to use my fingers because you can be, again, more precise, and by tapping it in, you're not going to risk moving the layers underneath. We've all been there. We've either used a liquid highlighter or one from the bullet that goes straight on and just takes off all your base makeup. It's an absolute nightmare. I'm now adding a very tiny amount of powder just in the areas that I need it because I get oily through the T section, so a little bit of translucent powder through here will just help. I think you'll agree it's actually quite an easy one to do. Lots of tips and techniques that you might not have tried before, which will be worth giving a go. I think this beautiful kind of long wear glossy finish to the eyes is stunning. It is a metallic, but it does give more of a glossy feel. Once they set in place, they literally don't budge. So if you are somebody that has quite oily eyelids or oily skin, then these will be really good for you because once they're there, they stay in place. They're really easy to use. As you can see, I literally just layered the two with a little bit of bronzer through the socket before I started. Done. So simple, so effective. So as always, I will list all the products I've used in the description bar. If you've got any comments, suggestions, ideas for tutorials, leave them in the comment section. I always do my best to get back to you guys. YouTube only favours videos that gets a lot of engagement, so please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it because it shows YouTube you liked it and it will hopefully show it to more people. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Come follow me outside of YouTube on Instagram where I'm a little bit more active on a daily basis, and I will see you next week with another tutorial. Bye!